Alrighty guys, what is up? Welcome back. It's been a while. I've been incognito for quite some time. Actually, I've just been really busy with other things, but today we're going to be going over why I think you should be buying the a6000 in 2019, or maybe why you shouldn't. It'll really just be up for you to decide after I give you this information. But first, I need some coffee. It's pretty early. Alright, so let's get into this. So the whole purpose I want of this video is essentially just to maybe help someone make a decision on buying a camera in 2019. Now, I'm only going to be going over one specific camera because that's where I want to put this topic at, because a lot of people are switching from Canon, Nikon, and from other brands over to Sony. Now, if you're just buying a camera, or this is your first DSLR, in this case first mirrorless camera, if you do decide to buy this camera, it is a great camera to choose. Is it the best camera out there in 2019? No, for a few reasons, but there are a lot of pros to it in the sense of being in 2019. The first pro to this camera, to the a6000, is that it is actually right now on sale for $499.99. So in a sense of price-wise, considering the specifications and things that it has built into it, I think that's a pretty good deal. Now, that's not always the price. Normally it is $650, $649.99. This is all USD, so this isn't for, across the pond or in different countries. This isn't for the United States. So in a sense of price for what it does offer, I think it's a good choice. There are a lot of other competitors and a lot of other companies out there, such as Canon or Nikon, that have good cameras for a cheaper cost, like $399, $450, things like that. But there are a lot of differences in those cameras. Pro number two is the small form factor in it. So it is a small camera, it is a mirrorless camera, so in a sense of traveling light or just wanting something smaller than a large DSLR, this is a good option just because the fact is, it's small. I mean, it is a compact, hybrid type of camera. It is the rangefinder style as well, so the viewfinder is not in the center like most traditional DSLRs or some of the more expensive mirrorless cameras. You do have a flip screen to a point, a tilt screen, not touch screen or anything of that nature. You are going to have all your particular inputs right over there, only micro USB, and then also to HDMI for a monitor or something like that to a TV. Other than that though, it's pretty basic. There's nothing much else to it. Pro number three, it's basically a really good bang for the dollar. And that's what I'm trying to get at with this camera, is that yes, it is not the most newest camera. It is around 5 years old if I'm not mistaken right now. So it has seen its age, and if you do look at mine has definitely seen its age. I mean, this thing is torn up. I've had it quite a bit. It still holds its own in today's market with traditional cameras and DSLRs coming out from Nikon, like the 3500, the 5600. If you look on Canon side of things, now it's the T7 or the T7i. There are some differences, but for the most part, this still holds its own in a sense of specs. Really cool things I will say on this one is AF speed on it. Really fast. It's going to have 179 autofocus points, so it would basically help you almost ensure that you would never miss a shot when it comes down to any kind of fast moving subjects or maybe wildlife, kids playing, sports, cars, if a model's moving around. This is going to do a very good job at that your subjects are in focus if you have it on continuous focus. Other than that, I would like to kind of bring up that I'm sure you know that Sony is good for low light performance. Now, granted that this is their entry-level APS-C size sensor camera, it is okay in low light. It's not bad, but it is okay. I mean, for stills, you're going to have 100 to 25,600 ISO capabilities, and then for movies, you're looking at 100 to 12,800 ISO. So it's not the best. I mean, I definitely wouldn't say this is going to be your low light king because I mean, everyone just assumes that Sony is just phenomenal in low light regardless of what camera it is, but it's not necessarily true. Coffee break. And then little other bulletin point that I would like to make on spec wise is that it is going to be a fast camera. Not just talking about autofocus, I am talking about frames per second. So 11 frames per second for stills. So in a sense of like how I was saying that you have a lot of AF autofocus points, like 179, it does accompany it well when you have that 11 frames per second. So essentially this is going to be a good entry-level camera for sports, any kind of action, wildlife, anything like that, because you have the 179 autofocus points paired with the 11 frames per second, and you got a pretty good camera for speed. Now, again, like I said, other cameras out there that do better, but you're also looking at spending a lot more money, you know, considerably thousands of dollars more. So keeping it within that $700 price range, this is a good choice. And one other thing that I would actually like to bring up about that low light capability things, when I first really jumped into Sony, I bought an a7 II, which I was like, oh, I'm gonna be able to take so many photos in low light. I'm gonna have like some just phenomenal crispy photos in, you know, darker situations. And the harsh reality was it wasn't always the case. So yes, Sony is great for low light. I mean, mainly more of their like higher end, like full frame sensors, or even some of like their newer like 6500, 6400 type cameras. 6000 just does have a little bit of an older sensor in it, so just don't be going into it thinking that your low light photography is going to be just phenomenal right away. Now, the one thing that I've never tried with this camera is to do like astro or night photography, which I think I'm going to test it out pretty soon just to see the capabilities, just to kind of show that, I mean, maybe it is pretty good in low light. So that might be another video. So now I want to go on to the cons, and then the cons of this, I'm only going to list 3, just because I feel like these ones, in my opinion, are the most crucial, but this is all subjective. This is just my opinion of the camera. I'm sure there are a lot of other people that have reviewed this camera and went over a lot more than I am. I'm just going over like some 3 points that I think might help you decide if this camera is for you. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, I don't know, but this is just my 2 cents on it. Con number 1, battery life. I'm sure if you've done any research on a Sony camera from the 2nd generation to the 6000 generation, you've heard that the battery life is It's true, can't sugarcoat it. I mean, when I had my a7 II and I also with my 6000, I run through batteries quite a lot. I recently just did a job up in Seattle where I was covering a corporate event, and I rented an a7R II along with my 7 III, and I ate through those W batteries like no tomorrow. So it was a letdown. I mean, definitely the batteries have gotten better if you have upgraded to their 3rd generation cameras. 100% they are much better in cold, much better just overall lasting. So battery life is, yeah, you will have to buy some extra batteries, definitely. Con number 2. So I did say that one of the pros was the form factor and the size of the camera, but that's also a con. So I have big hands, and I'm sure a lot of other people do as well. So holding this camera for a long period of time with my big hands is uncomfortable. But there are ways around it. You can buy battery grips. Sony doesn't make them for their 6000 series, but there are other companies out there that do, third-party companies that make battery grips, which I have a homie that has one and it feels pretty nice in the hand actually. They do kind of all across the board from 6000 generation all the way up to their A9 series. They're not the most comfortable ergonomically. So I would say if you are thinking about Sony, keep in mind that you might want to buy like a little bit of an extension, because they do make those as well. Or if you think about getting like a little battery grip for it, just because, I mean, my pinky is constantly falling off. It's very uncomfortable. I mean, when I was up in Seattle, I was just not having a good time holding my cameras for long periods of time. And that's just one thing that I will say that Sony should address. They should address their size in a sense of at least give us a better grip. Try to keep the body itself as the same size, but give us something a little bit more to hold on to, just because it's very shallow too. I mean, I'm sure you can see that there's not much room between the actual, where your grip is and where the actual body starts. And it doesn't make it a very fun experience to just walk around with this in your hand, because I don't like wearing straps. I mean, I know I still have these on there, but I prefer just to hold it with my hand, especially for street or any kind of landscape photography. It's either clipped on my book bag or in my hand. So form factor, pro and con, size does matter in some situations. Great for travel, great for just putting in a bag, putting into a purse, but in the sense of holding it for long periods of time, not that good. Con number 3, if you're a hybrid shooter or if you do any kind of video, if you're looking into Sony because of video qualities, this camera does shoot 1080p. It's not bad, it's not the worst, it's not the best, but one thing I will say is that there is no real mic choice for it. You can buy a proprietary Sony microphone that communicates through the hot shoe. That actual microphone is okay. I've tested it out myself and I've never really gotten good experiences out of it. Maybe it's just because I'm not using it properly, or maybe my situations that I'm in, it's just too much, background noise or ambient noise. The microphone that Sony has that works with these types of cameras that don't have the microphone input just aren't that good. To wrap everything up, essentially all I'm trying to get at with this video is, do you think it's worth buying the Sony a6000 in 2019? I definitely think it has its place in 2019, even though it is quite old. But with that being said though, I think it's a great place for someone to begin photography if they're looking for something that's pretty powerful, that is also not crazy expensive. I mean, the next jump up, if we're looking at the modern cameras in Sony's line, is a 6400, and you're immediately looking at spending about $1,300 with the 18-135 lens. I would say if you're looking for a good starter camera, if you're looking to get into photography, any kind of photography, the Sony a6000 is a pretty good choice. Now, if you can get over those cons, I mean, bad battery life, small grip, and no mic input, to me, it may not mean the world. I mean, I could always buy extra batteries, I could always just buy an external recorder, and the grip thing, it sucks, but if you're looking for something small and compact and you're really willing to jump into the Sony side of things as your first camera, I would just say that it is some things to keep in mind, especially if you do have large hands. Having a big grip is nice. Personally, myself, even their larger cameras like the a7 III still doesn't have a big enough grip. I mean, I think they should really learn from Nikon and Canon when it comes down to their grip, because those are ergonomically some of the best mirrorless cameras I've ever held. All I want to say is peace out. Check you later. Hopefully there'll be some more videos coming soon, just because I am trying to be a little bit more consistent on this one. And other than that though, like, subscribe, comment below if there's anything that you would like to see changed, or just in general something you'd like to see on the channel. Peace out.